So this is the second video. If you have not watched the first one, please watch that. And this is just a continuation of it. So we spoke about what are the categories, how you need to be prepared. Of course, if you're a beginner, pick a easy to moderate trek. So, if you're physically fit, that's fine. You do not need to have any prior experience, right? So that's fine. Now, how do you pick a trek? Okay, so if you are a beginner, if you're a first time trekker, I recommend you go with a established trekking company. There are many. To name a few, we have India Hikes, we have YHAI, which is Youth Hostels Association of India. We have Trek the Himalayas, Big Cut, and all of them. My personal favorite is India Hikes. The reason I mostly frequent with them is because they believe in giving back to nature, and they have something called Green Trails, which is a cause extremely close to my heart. So whenever we walk, we can't, we keep collecting garbage, plastic, whatever waste we find, and we collect all that, and we go to the next base camp, and all that is deposited, and then some useful items are made out of that. They try to help the local villagers, the community, and all of that. So very conscientious sort of organization, and the kind of people you will meet also are mostly, they will be like-minded people, so the conversations are great and all of that. Anyhow, you're free to choose whichever trekking company that you would want. Even if you do not want to go ahead with any trekking company and you want to go solo, absolutely fine. I've done that as well. All you need to do is get in touch with a a Sherpa or a local guide, and they will be able to arrange for one person who goes along with you, and that's absolutely fine as well. Okay, so once that is done, look at their websites. If you're going with the organization, look at their websites, and under each of these categories that we discussed some time back, you will find a list of treks that are mentioned. So pick whichever one you want. The important thing, I would like to bring out 3 important things while picking the trek. Number 1, season. Okay, every trek you will notice that they have batches. Now the batches mostly start from, let's say, March, and they will go along the rest of the year. So depending upon which season you are going, the experience is going to be entirely different. So for example, if you're going to Harkidun in the spring, you're going to have an entirely different experience and view as against you go in autumn, or you go to Harkidun during December, which it's going to be covered with snow, and it'll probably look like a scene out of Frozen. So see what you want to do. If you're a photographer, probably the best pick for you is going to be October, November, because the views are absolutely clear. If you like wildflowers in bloom, if you want to walk among rhododendron forests, then March, April, June, I think is a good time. So look at that, be aware of what you're picking and whether it suits your interests or not. Of course, looking at the practical aspects, like, which holidays are going to get approved, etc. Second, very important tip. This is something that a lot of people miss on, but I kind of wanted to share. See, what happens is, mostly when you're going via an organization, they count the total days of the trek base camp to base camp. All right. So let's say it says, again, Rupin Pass. Let's say Rupin Pass is a 9-day trek, but you are not going to mark your holiday for 9 days at office. Why? Because you need a couple of days to reach the base camp, and you also need the same number of days to go back from the base camp to the nearest airport. Okay. Second important thing, mountain weather is extremely unpredictable. So you need buffer days. You definitely should have 1 or 2 buffer days before you book your return ticket. And third, it's a personal tip. It's something I do. I always like to club 2 to 3 days of holiday, like not a luxury, a comfortable stay after my treks. Okay. And again, there are 2 reasons for it. One, I mostly, you wouldn't have taken a bath for how many ever days the trek was for. So, for example, when we were in EBC Gokyori, I think it was about 17, 18 days that we hadn't washed ourselves. So, I definitely did not want to stink up a plane and go directly back. So, it's best you book yourself in a comfortable little hotel in a nearby town to the base camp, so that you can check in, you can have a change of clothes, wear a decent clean set, explore the area, eat the local food, interact with the locals, etc. Because who knows, you might not go there again. And the second reason I like to do it is because it's a less of a shock to the system. Because imagine you've been away from any sort of human establishment for days together. No mobile network, no honking, no traffic, no drama, nothing. And if you suddenly kind of get back, it's the least to say it's really, really depressing. So you want to cushion the shock. You want to slowly kind of get back to society. So 2 or 3 days of a holiday, clubbing it along with the trek is a great idea. So if you want to do that, if you want to take the step, include those days also in your entire planning and accordingly put a budget together. Also, part of your planning would be, depending upon the season that you're going, your clothes, your gear, your trekking gear, etc. would vary. So the gears you would take for a winter trek is going to be obviously different from a monsoon trek to a spring and all of that, right? So that's an entirely different discussion. And how you pack for a trek is extremely important, because it's very different from how you would pack for any other holiday. So maybe I'll create a different video for that. Let me know if you guys are interested in information like this, so I can put it forward. So yeah, those were the important things that I wanted to share with you, in case you are an enthusiast to go to the mountains and would want to explore trekking. The reason behind this video today is because I got a mail from one of my trekking organizations yesterday, and it was speaking about how the economy or the microeconomy in the Himalayas and in the mountains is in a very, very bad state because of the pandemic, because of the situation that we are in, because this is prime trek season and nobody is obviously traveling. There are Sherpas, there are entire families, entire villages who are dependent on the income that they have because of the trekkers, right? So it's just a wish, it's just a hope that, some of us, if for the next holiday, we can try and help and support this kind of economy and spend some beautiful alone time with nature rather than supporting the MNCs and the huge luxury hotels. I mean, it'll be helpful. Having said, I want to end this video with a very, very important message. If you plan to go, please remember that you need to keep the mountains in a better state than you find them in. Us trekkers and the entire trekking community is extremely conscious and aware about what needs to be done to take care of the mountains, what needs to be done to take care of nature and not destroy it and not erode it of everything. All right. So we do not use plastic on treks. We do not burn waste. We do not leave sanitary pads or napkins and stuff like that there. We carry it back with us. If on periods women use menstrual caps there, we do not use wet tissues, because wet tissues have a certain amount of plastic in them. We use normal paper tissues. So there are many things like this that we do while on trek. So if you plan to go, please ensure that you are taking care of nature and you're respecting it and you're giving back, at least trying to give back equal or more than what we receive. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for staying with me for all this while. Thank you. Take care.